Good evening. My name is Bob Bew, and I'm pastor of the Word Alive Fellowship, and I welcome you to our Sunday night Bible study. We have been looking at Romans, particularly the middle chapters, because we find in Romans 5, especially beginning at verse 12, that there's a fundamental principle that's really expounded from 5:12 to the end of Romans 5 that helps us to grasp the essential meaning of Romans 6, 7, and 8. And this principle that is expounded in Romans 5:12 to 21, meaning Romans 5:12 to the end of the chapter, is that Adam is presented as someone that gives us a standing with God that's a negative standing with God, even though we have nothing to do with eating forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden. But Adam's representation in the principle that I'm calling group identity means that Adam is not just an individual, he's also a group identity, because everyone that is a descendant of Adam is considered another member of Adam's race. So that it's like having Adam as your last name. So that Bob is like having Adam as my last name, Bob Adam. And it means that everyone is considered guilty of eating forbidden fruit because of being in Adam's race, even if they as an individual never saw the Garden of Eden, never ate forbidden fruit. But they're given credit as if they did, because Adam is this group identity that spans all time from the Garden of Eden till the end of time. All of his descendants are represented in him. So what he does on behalf of all his descendants. So when he sinned, all of his descendants sinned. And this is something that Romans 5:15 referred to as the trespass. But then Christ is the answer, because the trespass is bad news indeed for humanity. Because the penalty of having eaten forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden is that you just perish away. You just turn back to the dust. You just die. Remember that curse? I'll just put it up on the board for 1 second. That curse in Genesis chapter 3. Particularly starting at 17 through 21. Remember that curse where God says to Adam, because you listened to your wife and you ate the fruit that I commanded you not to eat, then there's a series of curses pronounced upon Adam. And the last curse is that of death. He says that you were made of dust and you'll turn back to dust. Well, understanding the wages of sin being death is that there was no way that humanity could escape the fact that the law required that a sinner must die. And what do I mean by the law? The law that Adam was given by God, don't eat forbidden fruit. We get that prohibition about forbidden fruit back in Genesis chapter 2, verse 17, because God says in Genesis 2:17 that the day you eat that fruit, you're going to die. In other words, there's no way around the death penalty. If you've sinned, you have to die. And this is true not only of Adam as an individual, but true of everyone with the last name of Adam, which is every descendant of Adam, every member of the human race. All of us were under the sentence of death. That's why it says in Romans 5:15 that the trespass is that death caused. I'm going to pause right here on that thought, and I'm going to back up a few steps and start at the beginning of Romans 5:15 again, where it's talking about the trespass. it says that because of the trespass, all these people died. And the word for death is in the past tense, meaning that from God's point of view, everyone already died, as if they had already experienced physical death, because there's a death sentence that's pronounced on the human race, that because of Adam's sin, everyone is destined to die. So it's so certain from God's point of view that Romans 5:15 puts death in the past tense, saying that the trespass, namely eating forbidden fruit, caused death to be something that God views as already a reality as far as the human race is concerned. The many people, according to Romans 5:15, the many people died by the trespass of the one man. So here's the trespass of the one man as an individual, but look at all the many people of this world that died because of the trespass of that one man. Even if they haven't died physically, even if they haven't yet in their own individual experience come to that place of death, God's already declared that they died, because He's so certain that you can't escape the death penalty if you've committed a sin. And the sin was committed back in the Garden of Eden on behalf of all people. And therefore, Romans 5:15 says that the trespass is something that caused already death to all these people that committed the trespass. But that's not the only thing mentioned in Romans 5:15. The trespass isn't the only thing mentioned. The death penalty for all the people that committed the trespass is not the only thing mentioned. There's also mentioned in Romans 5:15 the gift. So, I'm going to take for a moment Romans 5:15 and mark the gift. And this is something that Jesus Christ accomplished when He came in the role of a representative like Adam. Hear it again in Romans 5:15, but the gift is not like the trespass. For as far as the trespass is concerned, the many people died by the trespass of the one man. How much more, and this is important, what Adam did was not good. Yet the extent of what Adam did that was negative embraced all that were represented by Adam and his sin. But in Romans 5:15, how much more did God's grace, meaning God's grace is something here that's already been given to all the people that needed a Savior from Adam's sin and Adam's penalty that was to die, to just go back to the dust and perish away. Well, God found a way in this amazing phrase, God's grace, and Romans 5:15 speaks about how much more did God's grace, well, to say momentarily something about this amazingly potent grace of God. God found a way through Jesus Christ to uphold His justice that the sinner must die by Jesus becoming Adam himself, by Him joining the human race, by Him taking the name of Adam in 1 Corinthians 15:45. Real quick, I'm just putting it up here. 1 Corinthians 15:45, where Jesus equals last Adam. So that it's as if Jesus was taking on the last name of Adam. Yes, He's Jesus of Nazareth as an individual, but as the representative of Adam's race. It's like his last name is Adam, Jesus Adam, because he's come in the role of taking on the identity of the first man, and everyone included, because everybody that is born into this world is born as a descendant of Adam, and by extension of Adam's group identity has the last name of Adam. So in Jesus becoming human, he became the last Adam. And as the last Adam, he took on an association with everybody to the extent that his mission in this world was to uphold the justice of God that declares the sinner must die, because that's the penalty of sin, is that you must die. But Jesus' mission was to uphold that justice and at the same time be able to extend, according to Romans 5:15, the gift, which is God's grace, to everybody that got in trouble because of Adam. Now, how was God going to accomplish this mission that Jesus came into the world to fulfill? To uphold God's justice